Hello, everyone. We've got Cuddlist squared here, and we're going to be talking a bit about how, in a cuddle session, we agree to speak up about anything that we're, not comfortable with, and adjust. And I was thinking about how, if you have to adjust multiple times, that could seem like focusing on the negative, and how a lot of times in life we don't really say when we do like something. Like we might say, this sandwich is delicious. But so we're going to have a discussion. And I don't really have my thoughts very collected or my questions, but we're just going to kind of have a conversation and see what we can learn.
Great. So y'all probably know that this is Larysa, the happiness archaeologist, and I'm Kassandra Brown. And I love talking about how we can use Cuddlist sessions to be practice grounds for doing stuff in life. Because you're right, Larysa, that it's often, we often don't speak up. We often tolerate and endure things for longer than we want them. I'm curious, how's your neck right now?
It's funny because I actually was just thinking, I wonder about how I could adjust to make it.
I wonder if we could pull this blanket up and then you could lean back again and see, is that more comfortable?
That seems like it. Yes,
Okay.
I think so.
Great. So partially I noticed how your neck looked in the camera, but I also noticed that my chest was a little uncomfortable. And I was like, wait, if my chest is uncomfortable, your head might be uncomfortable. So using our own discomfort or just awareness of something that's less than yummy can really help clarify whether it's good for somebody else too. Because so many times we're like, oh, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to offend them. But when we do speak up, if we can do it in a kind way, it often improves things for both of us. So yay for you and your head being in a happier place. And you had mentioned an example of somebody, let's hold your hand up where we can see it, somebody just kind of repetitively touching you, and that you were like, well, it's not bad. It's not my preference. After a little while, it's unwelcome exfoliation, but we're not going to be doing it forever. The session is going to be over in 15 minutes or something. So even if they do this for 15 minutes, it's going to be okay. Thank you. Sorry, hand. And I just want to say for everybody out there, repeated movements over a small surface area are almost always annoying. Don't do it. So pro tip, that's just, but we kind of do this when we're not really in our own bodies. And so if your client, if your client Larysa is doing this, they're probably not really feeling their own fingers either. Because when I tune in, I'm like, oh, I feel you. I'd much rather do something like this. Or lean my head on you. Kind of breathe and slow down. So oftentimes it's really cool that doing what I want also feels nice to the client. And so I would say for you too, doing what you want often feels nice to the other person. We're kind of worried that we're going to be super selfish and if I do what I want, it's going to be taking advantage of the other person. Very, very rarely is that true. When I tune into enjoyment, usually my clients are like, oh, and they relax into it too. If I'm kind of checked out and enduring, I'm like, whatever. They're doing that repetitive hand thing, and I don't think they're enjoying it either. Can I say more, or do you want to jump in?
Yeah.
Okay. Another thing that, if somebody's doing this, instead of saying, hey, would you stop doing that because it's annoying? I might say, will you stroke up my arm? Or will you be still for a little bit? Because I really like stillness. And if you're doing it for me, stillness would be really nice. Oh, okay. So if we ask for what we want rather than spank them for doing what we don't want, that often goes really a lot better too.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost wonder sometimes when people are doing this business, if it's the equivalent of why people spin a fidget spinner or that kind of thing. It's just some nervous energy that they're expending somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you think about the communication of something feels nice?
I think that's lovely. And it helps direct the touch or the conversation or the cuddle in a really lovely way. So yeah, I've got a client who often has a challenging time actually reaching out to touch me. I think they're very shy. And so sometimes they'll kind of pet my face a little bit. And I'll be like, oh, that feels really nice. I like it like that stroke up between my eyebrows, that felt really soothing. And then I can kind of feel them smile and they're like, oh, good. And then sometimes they're like, well, will you try that on me? You know, sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. So it kind of opens up the conversation. I mean, you probably want to be careful not to be like, oh yeah, that's so good. You know, I mean, that might send the wrong message.
And I think especially in the Cuddlist session, like it's not really for the practitioner. If it feels good, that's nice. But like, I guess that's where I'm kind of thinking, well, how does that dynamic work when it is for the client, but maybe the client wants to produce something nice?
I would say that yes. And like all things, communication with your client, go for it. But if you have, like if you haven't really talked about it and they do something that feels nice, you might just be like, that feels nice. I think that's probably like across the board. I'm trying to think of any exceptions to that for me. And I think generally letting my clients know when I'm enjoying what they're doing feels like a kindness to them. Most people who come to see me are a little uncertain about their own touch and how to do it well. And so letting them know like that feels nice, I think is good.
And I would imagine there's plenty of clients that ideally they might want to learn how they could use this in the world, either at cuddle party or with a friend or their future people they encounter. And so that feedback could actually, like you said, be a kindness and help teach them, like, it doesn't necessarily mean everyone's going to feel the same way about it, but this is a positive.
Definitely. Yes. So that's, not just in the moment, but also letting them get better at touching.
And I think I want to practice like asking, because I feel like I want arms around me more somehow. Thank you. And
I probably should have let you ask more.
And I still need to practice asking. I gotta figure, can I like lean my head more, kind of like, let it drop. And so, are there variations on the, very innocent tone of voice that feels nice, or like other positive feedback ways of communicating that?
I mean, you could make just a nice sound like without it being, hot and heavy moaning. Keeping your focus on the session is of service to your client. And then just from that place, from that foundation, being curious. How is this of service to them? And so you can just be really clear too. You can ask them, would you like to practice touching me and getting feedback? How would you like that feedback? Right? You don't have to just guess. You can really ask them.
And incidentally, as we have a kitty cat nearby, I was going to mention, oh, that's fun, that my rabbit likes the between the forehead pets, and most rabbits do. I guess it kind of puts them into like a trance. That's how some people will end up getting to clip their toenails. And one thing I like to warn people if they want to touch my face is like, if it's the end of the day, I don't mind messing up with makeup, but just be aware you're going to get makeup on your hands. And I have a kitty cat on my foot. I wish you guys could see it. It's very cute.
That is pretty cute. I'll grab the camera and show them if you really want.
That's okay.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember if I had other questions. Oh, I remember logistics of cuddling. Like, I noticed that you just like know where to put the arm and where to put the pillow to have the arm not fall asleep. Like, any kind of tips on getting the cuddle choreography logistics, like when you might not have tried a cuddle yet, like how to know, hey, if my arm's here, that's going to probably fall asleep, and here's where to put the pillow to make that better.
I think just don't be afraid to try. We've got 4 pillows and a cuddle llama around and a blanket. So, different size pillows, and I've got 2 behind my back. We're using 2 to prop up the phone right now. Just have some things around and be willing to experiment, because different clients also have different bodies. Like some people, when they lie on their side, they're fine to be right on their shoulder. Some people want to kind of lie so that their arm's a little bit in front. Some people want to lie kind of more on their chest so their arms out behind them. Like, the out behind them arm thing, like that works for me for like 2 minutes and then my arm's done. I've had people who are like an hour in that position, and that's the more comfortable position for them. For me, I can stay with my arm kind of tucked in between me and the client, like on my side, for a pretty long time, probably 45 minutes, maybe an hour, and it's fine. And I've got a lot of other people who are like, yeah, that arm's totally falling asleep. So different people, different bodies, be willing to experiment and use pillows.
Mm-hmm. Just like people want to sleep in different positions. Like I usually spend most of my time on my side. I can do a little bit on my stomach, but I don't understand people who can like sleep the entire night on their stomach. Like,
Me either.
I'm trying to remember. I had one more question. Oh yes. So earlier you asked me like, do I like the moving touch or the stillness?
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that they felt different, and they both felt good in different ways. So, I mean, I've heard of different types of touch, like feather touch. I don't know if there's like fire, but how much do you find it's helpful to like offer and demonstrate versus like have them just like what if they don't know the varieties available?
Right, and a lot of people don't. So I think it's probably a great idea to like demo and ask and be like, hey, it could be like feathery touch, it could be like nails, it could be a stroke, what kind of pressure do you like? Like all of those are great questions. I usually don't ask that. I noticed with you earlier that I had just gone into moving touch, and then I was like, well, I often like stillness, so I'll ask you. It was also a way of asking you to drop into your body and notice, because you, like me, like many clients, are very comfortable in our heads and our words, and the body is less familiar. And so to be like, oh, what do I want in my body? It takes a longer time to notice. And so I'll often suggest a couple of breaths to drop in, to notice, to let it soak in, that you're actually getting touch for you. You don't have to do what the other person wants. You don't have to put up with anything. You don't have to kind of endure getting what you don't want so that the other person doesn't leave you. Like, it's just, you can have actually the touch that you want. And a lot of us aren't used to noticing what that is. So it's okay if people don't know. If you don't know, if I don't know, if our clients don't know, it's okay to take the time.
That's kind of like the beauty of the exploration and the learning.
Yeah.
And I guess in conclusion, I will say, this feels nice.
Yay.
So thank you.
You're welcome.